Oh, wow, what an amazing week this has been so far. It started so well when we entered into Jerusalem. So many people were so joyful to see Jesus. Though Jesus' mode of transport, the donkey, didn't quite get that, but who cares? Everybody was so overjoyed to see him, throwing their cloaks and palms in front of him. A fantastic moment. Well, the next day, the drama continued because we went into the temple and Jesus was not best pleased with the money changers. And he became absolutely furious with them and started turning tables over, and birds got thrown all over the place, and animals were charging around. I've never seen so many feathers in my life. Well, of course, the money changers and the Pharisees and others were not best pleased with Jesus, but as always, the people loved him and they flocked to him. And then Jesus began to heal people. People received sight. Those who couldn't walk were able to walk again. These kinds of things I've come to be used to be honest, which is phenomenal in and of itself. But it was an amazing moment. I just so love Jesus. Well, the next day we got up quite early and Jesus went over to a fig tree to get some figs to start the day, and there were no figs on that tree, and Jesus was not pleased with the fig tree and said that you will no longer produce fruit anymore. And right before my eyes I saw this fig tree wither away, and then Jesus turned around and said that we will be able to do such things as this if we have enough faith. Then he started talking about moving mountains into oceans, and well, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do anything like that, but I guess what Jesus was trying to get at was that if we have enough faith and pray enough, then we will be able to do literally the impossible. Well, then began the debates with the teachers of the law and the high priests and the elders and others about who Jesus was. And we spent quite a lot of time, really, or Jesus spent quite a lot of time debating with them. But one of the ones I particularly remember, well, actually, there's a couple I want to share with you. But the first one was when they were talking about John the Baptist. They were saying to him, now, Jesus, by what authority do you do these things? And Jesus turned around and said to them, well, I'll tell you by what authority I do these things. If you tell me by what authority John the Baptist baptized people with. And he said, was it from heaven or was it from men? Well, I remember hearing them debating amongst themselves, and they were saying things like, well, if we say he did it by the authority of heaven, then Jesus will say, well, why didn't you listen to him? But if we say it was by men, then people will riot because John is seen as a prophet. I remember them all looking up and saying, we don't know. And then Jesus turned around and said, well, then I'm not going to tell you by what authority I am doing what I'm actually doing. The other thing I remember is the moment when one of these teachers of the law came to Jesus and asked him, you know, you're teaching really, really well, but let me ask you a question, Jesus, he said. What is the greatest commandment? And Jesus immediately turned around and said, well, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul and mind, and to love your neighbour as yourself. And the man replied by saying, you have answered wisely. In fact, the man went on to say, which I have to say surprised me, was actually that by keeping these commandments was far more important than lots of sacrifices, sin offerings, etc., etc. Jesus replied by saying, actually, this man is not far from the kingdom of heaven. To me, again, implying actually it's not about sacrifices and sin offerings and things like that. It's actually about the heart. That's what's more important to God. It's not about what we do. It's really, I guess, about our motivation. Well, these debates continued on, and eventually we ended up in Simeon the leper's home. And then something really strange happened there for me. this woman come in and she had this expensive oil worth about a year's wage, I believe, and she broke it over Jesus's head. Now Jesus praised the woman and was really pleased about what she did. And I have to say, I didn't quite understand what was going on there. But I know that Judas was furious. He was not a happy person. In fact, he'd been complaining quite a lot at the latter part of this week about Jesus and some of the things that he'd been doing. In fact, where is Judas? I haven't seen him for ages. Not since we were at Simeon's home. He seems to have disappeared. Can't think where he's gone. But anyway, Jesus praised the woman, and for me, that's good enough. I mean, to be honest, I didn't understand everything that Jesus has been talking about, particularly when he started talking about the temple being torn down and no stone left upon another. And then he started talking about the moon being darkened and earthquakes and things like that. I really don't know what Jesus was really going on about there, but hey ho, who am I? I'm just one of his disciples. Anyway, must go because Jesus has asked two of us disciples to go and make preparation for the Passover. You know, freedom time. I love the Passover. It's a great moment in the Jewish calendar. Anyway, so I must go. Apparently, we're going to meet a man who's going to be carrying a jar of water, and we're to follow him. Things are never simple with Jesus, are they? So we're going to follow this man to home, and the home owner will invite us in, apparently, and then we're to say, have you got the preparations ready for our teacher? And they will apparently take us up to an upper room, and there the room will be set out. Once we've seen that, we are then to make our preparations. So I guess I better go and get ready. Bye.